now.
Sure.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet with me and talk about the show coming out tomorrow. So I know that you are a Trailblazers fan.
Yeah, I
And
bleed Blazers red and black. Yeah.
yes, yes. And the one thing that the Trailblazers have that the Clippers do not, of course, is an NBA championship. Unfortunately, I am a Clippers fan, but I will say I'm a newer one. I kind of came along with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So, I kind of miss this. But as a basketball fan, how fun was it working on this project?
Oh, it was a dream. My wife and I were watching. I live in Brooklyn, but we were watching Winning Time. Even though that as a Trailblazer fan, the public enemy number one are the Los Angeles Lakers. But it's a great series, and I turned to her at some point and said, "When am I going to get my basketball show?" And I got the audition for this 2 weeks later. So
Wow.
I don't know if I have some manifesting skills, but I better be careful what I wish for, I think.
Okay. And when
I,
it
I
comes
will say, I will say, sorry to interrupt about the championship. Thank you for it's been so long. It's I sometimes forget. But you guys are a lot closer than we are to getting one in the near future. So you've got that.
and
You
I
stay
also want to
healthy, you're gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you so much for Norman Powell. He's like my favorite player coming off the bench. So thank
I
you for
love him.
that.
Two of my favorite players, NBA players, are Norman Powell and Josh Hart, two guys who did some great time in Portland. Um, and it's just because we had to do a complete rebuild. They would have been wasted in Portland at this point, and so I'm glad they both ended up in great situations. And I'm glad Josh is in New York, so I can. He's only just across town, so I get to root for him close up still.
Yeah, he's having a lot of fun over there. I love the memes
Yeah,
and everything that he's doing. It's a really great fit for him.
he's hilarious.
So when it comes to the Donald Sterling scandal, I mean, Andy Roeser is not really someone people really think about. So people who may not be so familiar with the story, how would you kind of describe his role and how everything happened?
Well, in our version, there was tons of research done, meticulous research done, but there were certain things that happened that there are no records of. So some of this is conjecture, um, but educated guesses. He was essentially Sterling's right hand man, and the way, certainly what was on the page, and the way I saw him, he signed on with Sterling really young, very impressionable. I think he was a bit awed of this super successful person. I do my Andy at least is very aware of the untoward aspect of the Sterling Empire, but I think he's just, there's a weakness that makes him just impressed, the audacity that someone could actually pull this off, and just the mere fact of wealth. In this country we are enamored of wealth. If there's a billionaire sometimes, or just an uber rich person, we sometimes have a tendency to think automatically that they're smarter, or they're better, or they're morally correct, whatever, you know what I'm saying. And I think there was an element of that. I think he was awed by this guy, and therefore turned a blind eye. And in our version also, he's Sterling was, it's not a secret that he was widely considered the worst owner in the NBA, and I would argue perhaps in professional sports, American sports. And part of that was that he was pretty abusive to his employees. And I think one of the reasons Andy, at least my Andy, lasted so long was that it's like, I'll eat your crap, and please, can I have some more? Yeah, okay, fantastic, pleasure doing business with you. There was in order to last that long, I think you really have to smile through it and convince yourself, no, everything's fine. Oh, those rumors, just rumors. That's kind of the way I see it.
Of course. And you said a lot of research went into this role. Were you able to talk to Andy at all before you started filming?
No, no, that wasn't the connection that was made. And I'm assuming there were lots of I've heard sort of through the grapevine that there were lots of NDAs that are still active. So I'm not even sure that would have been possible.
Okay. And for fans, I mean, Obviously, some NBA fans will be watching, but for you, obviously, you're a fan as well. But for the non-sports fans, why should they watch this show?
Well, there's surprisingly compared to Winning Time, although I guess if you're not a basketball fan, perhaps you didn't watch that show, and you should. It's very good. There's more time spent off court than there is on court. It's about a dysfunctional marriage. It's about um, uh, male female relationships. It's about power dynamics. It's about sexual dynamics. And it's about compromised morals. My character and a number of other characters continue to follow this, let's say, charitably questionable man, even with the knowledge that he's deeply questionable. Um, it's hard to risk your livelihood and your life to make a stand, but ultimately you either make a stand or you don't. It's also about there's a fascinating, it's through the whole piece, but there's one episode in particular that really focuses on the quandary that the players and Doc Rivers had, the coach, what to do. It's the first time for some of them, and first time in the franchise history, that they were legitimate championship contenders. And that's what everyone's, they've sacrificed their lives to be champions. And they're getting pressure to make a giant, like a huge grand gesture, probably boycotting, and therefore losing by default, losing the series and not advancing to the finals. And you could tell that there are these competing desires. This is what we work for, and we're so close. This is something that, what is the stand that we should make, and why do we have to do it? Why are we getting punished? By making the stand, we're going to punish ourselves. But we don't like this guy. There's a great scene where Sheldon Bailey, who plays DeAndre Jordan, I think it's he's a great guy, by the way, a great actor. I think it's in the trailer, at least one of them, where Anderson Cooper interview, I think Sterling is saying, my players love me. What? They all love me. And Sheldon DeAndre they're all watching in a hotel room, and he just screams at the TV, we literally hate you. And so, there's so much, it's fraught. And so the tension that these dynamics that are shown with these dynamics, I think are fascinating for anybody. You don't have to be a sports fan.
And you obviously, I'm not to cut you off. Go right ahead.
No, I'm just babbling now.
No, you're good. You're good. You obviously had a lot of scenes with Ed O'Neill. How was that?
I've been a huge Ed O'Neill fan forever. And I know he's a great actor. There were things I didn't know about him until I got to work. Yeah, I worked with him most of all. And secondly, Lawrence Fishburne, that was also great. But I didn't realize that he was sort of like me. He was sort of the tortoise in the early part of his career. He did a lot of regional theater like I did. And he did off Broadway stuff in New York. And it wasn't until slightly later in his life that he started getting TV. And it's the same pattern I followed. And it was kind of nice to hear that. He's bonded with him a little bit over that. He's a great storyteller. And he's just a great scene partner. He's a guy who just plays ball with you. Sorry, someone's coming in my hotel room. Okay, they closed the door. That was weird. But at least I've got a witness if something happens. It's recorded. He couldn't, I think, as good as everyone knows he is, I think people still underrate how good he is. He's a wonderful actor, and the character work he does on this show is really, if you can say about Ed O'Neill that eyes will be opened, they'll be opened even further. He does wonderful, wonderful work.
Was there a little bit of improv, or did you stick to the script for the most part?
We were allowed a little bit of sway. They never stopped us from improvising. I noticed in the final cuts that some of that stuff made it, but a lot of it was like, all right, let them play, let them tire themselves out, and then they'll do the lines the way they're written. But yeah, there was a lot of, especially for me anyway, especially with Ed, the dynamic between, because there was almost a father-son dynamic. There was also a long put upon employee employer dynamic. And he loved to throw things at me and uh, sort of that would be semi humiliating for Andy. And then he laughed. He wanted to see how I would react in the moment, and we had some good laughs. So it was an improvisatory vibe, um, and it was a loose vibe. It was a very collaborative vibe. Gina Welsh, the showrunner and main writer, um, welcomed our input, uh, but it also there was a clear path we were following. She was very much she knew the story she wanted to tell, and she knew how she wanted to tell it, but wanted our input too. So it was a nice mix, and that's the for me anyway, because I'm not an improv artist. For me, that's the way I want to improv. I want to know that there's a very strong scaffolding that I can sort of swing around, but I know the scaffolding's already always going to be there.
Well, would you say that was the favorite part about filming this project for you when you look back to your experience? What do you look back on and say, yeah, that was my favorite part?
Hard to pick a favorite part, but I guess with you asking me the question that way, I would say, yeah, my favorite part was just the vibe on set. It was a joy to go to. I've literally never had more fun on a job than this job, which is hard to say because there's some difficult material we're working with. But it's a surprisingly funny series. There was a tone that Gina wanted to hit that allowed for a lot of play. There's a lot of funny stuff um, without shying away from the hard stuff. Uh, yeah, I mean, yes. So short answer, yes. It was the vibe on set created by the showrunner and down through all the crew and the cast and Ed and Lawrence and Jackie Weaver as and Cleo, our top four people, on the call sheet. They just set a tone. It was you work really hard, you come prepared, which doesn't always happen on every show. Everyone was super prepared. And then because you're so prepared, you can play and you can have those moments of just like goofy, silly fun that lead to surprising discoveries during the takes, and the people allowing us to do that at the top, allowing us to do that.
So it's very obvious a lot of passion, a lot of hard work went into this
Yeah.
project. I did speak to some Clipper fans, people, they've been there 20 plus years, been fans since the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And, most of them, they're, a little nervous for this to come out. They said they'll watch, but there's one person who said, I really just don't want to relive this. So for the fans that are a little bit more hesitant, what is your message to them?
Um, oh, that's a great question. I would say it's a new regime. This story has nothing to do with the current regime. I'm not sure I like that word, but you know who I mean. The current management uh, ownership of the team. It's a it's a completely different team and organization now, as far as I can tell. So I think there's safety in watching it because that's gone, and I would say watch for the performances and watch for the production's visual style. There's a visual storytelling style that Gina and I know a number of other people, I'm sure editors and other producers, but Gina um, hit upon that I've never quite seen before. Just the visuals that you'll see in the way they move back and forth and suggest, because this was the dawn, not the dawn, but this was really the around the time when social media really blew up in a specific way, and TMZ was really blowing up in a specific way, and they created a visual language to sort of suggest that data-driven, instantaneous response kind of vibe. And I think that's fascinating too. But really, the performances and the connections. And there's so many behind the scenes things that you won't have known before. So yeah, that's what I would say. I'd also say, please watch. Do it for me. It's a great show.
What is the message that you hope people take away once they're done watching this series?
Mm. Well, there are myriad messages one could take away. I guess the nearest and dearest to me, probably because of the character I'm playing and the way I'm playing him, um, would be don't delude yourself. Uh, if you know something's, if you, I mean, this is going to sound like an after school special, sorry, but it, if you know something's wrong, don't just go along. Even if it means risking something like a job. And I know that's hard, but God, we could use people just saying in this time in our country too. We could use people just saying, "I'm sorry, that's wrong. This might not benefit me personally in a very specific way right now, but it's certainly going to. If everyone does that more, it's going to benefit me because it's going to benefit society. It's going to make organizations better. It's going to make communities better, and honestly, you're going to sleep better at night." That's, I guess, one of the messages I would give from the perspective of my character 10 years later. Looking back, he would say, yeah, I really should have. I really should have. Anyway, that's my take.
Awesome. Thank you so much for saying that. And is there anything else you'd like to add? I really appreciate you taking time out on your Monday to speak with me.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, we've got the event tonight and tomorrow night. The first two episodes drop, and each subsequent week, the I guess Tuesday, Hulu will drop the other episodes. Or six total. It's a really good series. I got to see all the episodes. I'm really proud of it. It's a funny series, and it's dramatically interesting. I would just say check it out. And uh, yeah, for me.
And for people watching, where can they follow you on social media?
Oh, I'm at Kelly AuCoin 77 on both. I still call it Twitter. Damn it,
That's good.
Twitter and Instagram. So that's, and my name spelled out AuCoin. That's 77, which is the last time the Portland Trailblazers won the championship.
That's right. All right. Thank you so
Just to
much for
come full
speaking with
circle.
me and enjoy the
Thank
rest of
you.
your Monday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.